Good evening and welcome to Mindful Conversations. I am Dr. Lori Monaco from Align Yourself, Inc. I am a life coach specializing in transformation and mindfulness practice, and I am also known as the Badass Buddha. And Mindful Conversations is a new show on my channel. It has replaced my 30-minute Q&A, which never was a Q&A because nobody really ever asked any questions. So it was just me talking. And so I thought it would be fun to do something different because I love interviewing people, and I like being interviewed myself, but I found that it's more enjoyable for you, the viewers, to hear somebody else's perspective as well. And so I decided to add this to my lineup on my channel. And so tonight's guest is a friend of mine. Coincidentally, most everybody that's going to come on for now is a friend of mine. And then any new people that come on will end up being my friend. So I guess everybody really in the end is going to be my friend. But this is a friend of mine, an amazing, beautiful woman that I have known for years and I used to work with. And her name is Nanette Ginise. Oh my God, I almost lost your last name for a second, Nan. And Nanette is a licensed massage therapist. She is also a Reiki healer, certified reflexologist, and owner of White Jade Wellness. So I'm going to read her bio so that I make sure that I get everything in there. So Nan, you just sit there and look pretty while I read to everybody.
I'll do my best.
So she is licensed in New York and Connecticut. She is a 1999 graduate from the Connecticut Center for Massage Therapy. 2 years after graduating from CCMT, what we lovingly used to call it, she returned as an instructor of traditional Chinese medicine theory and acupressure, a position she kept for 18 years. This led her to travel to China numerous times to observe and experience Chinese medicine and bodywork firsthand. In 2006, Nanette completed her reflexology certification course, and in June 2019, she received a specialty certificate in reflexology from the National Certification Board of Therapeutic Massage and Bodywork, also known as NCBTMB. Nanette is also an NCBTMB board certified licensed massage therapist and approved provider for continuing education for massage therapists and a 20-year member of the American Massage Therapy Association. I love this last piece that she put. Teaching is her passion and bodywork is her calling. Welcome, welcome, Nan. I'm so glad to have you on. So did we miss anything? Is there anything you'd like to add for the viewers out there?
No, I think that pretty much describes
that. Pretty much describes it. So you started, what year did you start? If you were teaching 18 years, because that's how long I was teaching too.
About 2001.
2001. Okay, yeah, that's when I started too. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I started in May 2001. We started the same exact year. I don't think I ever knew that.
Well, you were up in Newington.
So I'm just getting my stuff ready in case anybody comes on. And hold on a second, I have to fix my Facebook. So tell everybody about your facility or your business and where it's located, and just give us a little bit more on you.
Okay.
You used to teach too.
I do not have a office in place at this time. I do some home visits, and believe it or not, I work with a few elderly. For some reason, they're very sweet to me, and I'm very sweet to them. I don't know where that comes from.
Okay.
I think I didn't have a solid outside practice because I was so dedicated to teaching all those years.
Yes, you taught a lot.
But now that I'm not teaching, I've got to figure out, what do I want to do with this massage therapy thing that is so special to me? And I do work out of a spa in New Canaan. But I have other things in other places where I want to take massage. So those are some of my little side adventures there.
Go ahead. Yes, because I know before. So the school that we loved, absolutely loved working at, ended up closing that particular campus after I think they were in that particular spot for about 30 years or something crazy like that, and you got certified to teach continuing education after that, or like right before they closed. And that's great. You know, that's reinventing yourself. And, you know, whenever somebody's licensed in a state, they are required by law to maintain the license, and they have to have continuing education. So anything like social workers, doctors, massage therapists in the state of Connecticut, and even in the state of New York, they all, among other people, have to be, you know, get these continuing education. So you are one that provides it. So what do you teach? What was your, were your classes for continuing ed?
Everything that I've done in my life is because something caught my fancy and I followed it, and that's where it led me. I've always been interested in healing, and I've always been interested in herbal medicine. And people would always talk to me about Chinese medicine, and I was always like, well, that's all well and good, but I live here, and I need to know herbal tradition here, or from, you know, Western herbalism from Europe, and Chinese herbs. Well, anyway, that was just me being small-minded. So anyway, I got into massage school, and we started having our acupressure classes, because I went to the New York program, so it was a little more involved than the Connecticut.
Very long program, right?
And I'm like, oh my, this stuff is fascinating, right? I started learning about meridians. I started learning about qi. So then I had to start looking at Chinese herbs. And I actually did a 2-year program at the Connecticut Institute of Herbal Studies up in New Britain. And that's what actually got me to China. But it's funny how closed-minded I was about it. But just that experience in massage school led me into all things traditional Chinese medicine. So when the school had to expand to a 1,000-hour program, they added classes that I did not get to experience. So after I graduated, I came back and I was the perennial assistant in these classes. So one day, the lovely Linda Derrick tapped me on the shoulder and she goes, would you be interested in actually learning to teach these? I was like, in a minute, yes. And that's how that came about.
Yeah, that's
good. And I realized, I mean, I've always liked, I guess I've always liked teaching, because it came to me pretty naturally. It's something I really love to do. So when the school was closing, I went for that NCBTMB certification real fast, because I needed to be able to keep sharing things.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about that particular school too is, I mean, the longevity of a lot of us, you know, we had been there for so many years because we all were really good at what we did. We were all really good teachers, and we loved what we did. You know, like we loved teaching in that environment with those students, and that place was like no other place to work at, because we were all like, we genuinely loved each other and adored each other, which was so conducive to, you know, the whole premise of this program is having guests on that also have practiced some sort of mindfulness practice, you know, like some element of mindfulness practice in their life. Some could be very hardcore, some could be just minor, you know, and we're going to get into that in a moment. So I have questions lined up for Nan. Before we do that, though, I do want to say hi. We have a few people on here. So Margarita is on. Hi, Margarita. She says, hello, beauties.
Hola, amiga.
Diana's on, and Mackenzie, and Andrew's on. So hi. And
hi, Andrew.
And Diana are going to be future guests on the show, because they both have projects going on that I think everybody needs to hear. And so Andrew put, wow, the Jamaican is here. That's no, I'm sorry. He said Jamaican is here. And Mackenzie says, miss you guys. Mackenzie. I always loved that name. And when Mackenzie was a student of mine, I was pregnant, and I wanted so badly to have that as my name for my youngest child, and I was outvoted. So, but in my heart, Mackenzie, in my heart. So
Mackenzie Kelly?
Yeah. Yep.
Hi, Mackenzie.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's your first question. You are a professional massage therapist, Reiki practitioner.
Reiki. You keep wanting me to do Reiki.
What, honey?
You keep wanting me to do Reiki.
You said you were Reiki. I thought you, oh no, I read it wrong. Reflexologist.
Yes.
That's what you were talking about before. Oh my God, that's so funny. Okay,
I don't want to.
apparently want her to be an energetic healer. So so not Reiki, reflexologist. Okay. Which still is very energetic in itself anyway. Okay. So she's reflexology, teacher, entrepreneur. You're also in recovery, which we'll discuss later, or a little bit. And then what do you do to ground yourself and create balance?
That is something that I learned working at CCMT. Like you said, we just had a great bunch of colleagues. So I learned mindfulness practice going through massage school, right? You cannot do the work that we do if you're not mindful.
Correct.
Just those moments of quieting ourselves down before we go to work, or thinking, going internal and thinking about what you're going to be tending to, with the next client, what needs to be worked on. You need to be mindful. You can't be all over the place and do that kind of work. I mean, I certainly wouldn't want my, even a surgeon, I wouldn't want my surgeon coming into the operating room thinking about, his golf game next Wednesday. Right? I want him to be mindful about where he's cutting. Other techniques that I have learned over the years, probably about 10 years ago, I started sitting with a Zen meditation group, and we started studying, obviously, the teachings of Buddha, and just a lot of that study and that reading, or just sitting, has created a mindfulness in me. When I start going a little bit off the rails, I just know now to sit and breathe, or just sit and reflect inward. And a lot of that's going to tie into even just what I've learned in recovery. I think Buddhism and making a successful recovery are very much hand in hand. It's all about non-attachment. So those are a lot of the things that I do to ground. And doing some things that are creative will help ground and center me, like cooking. For some reason, if I'm all over the place, if I've got to focus on something that I'm making, that just brings me right back in.
Yeah. So being very present. Yeah.
That's the word I'm looking for. Yes. Right. You can't be a non-present massage therapist. You can't cook if you're not.
Well, you know what? We say that's true. And even with the surgeon, the example that you had with the surgeon, that's true. But yet there's so many people out there that are very disconnected, and the surgeon can be one that is, the massage therapist, yes, but you have a lot of people out there that really should be very mindful and very connected at that moment in time. And our lifestyle has gotten us to the point where we aren't always present and in that moment. And so our mind is on so many other different things. And so it's mindfulness practice has been around for 3,000 years, and it's nothing new. I mean, this has been practiced within religious realms, and not just Buddhism in general, but many different types of religions, even Christian-based religions. But we act like we invented it because we bring it out into the new, like, modern way of doing things. And then, it comes up on a magazine cover like Time magazine, and it says, the science of mindfulness, which I love because I was the science teacher. So I love that part of it, and I love where we connect it. But it isn't anything new, and but it is something that's very wise. And if we take those moments to be present and be aware, accountable, you said not attached, which is a big piece. And being not attached to things that don't serve us. So, especially like if you work in a field like you do, where you're on your way to work and like there's tons of traffic, or somebody cut you off and people are being jerks and it's hot out and whatever, and you get very stressed out, and you're going to work on somebody to help them in their healing process, very therapeutic value that massage therapy has. And you have to disconnect. You have to disconnect from that other stuff. Yet, mindfulness practice teaches us to also be connected, connect to those things that we need to connect to. So like when you work with a client, right? You can detach yourself from other things, but when you're present in that moment with that person, you connect with them on a level that's unspoken. What do you think? How do you
Totally.
feel when you connect?
That's being in the moment, and I'm being right where I am at the table at that moment. I'm right there where my feet and my hands are, and there's no reason for me to be anywhere else in that hour or 90 minutes or whatever it is. And there is no room for anything else in there. And I think that's a big part of meditation and mindfulness.
Headphones on. I think I have people in the background way too loud, and I'm gonna get my headphones on. So keep talking, Nan.
So we're teaching, one of the things I always like to bring into my class was teaching them meditation. So we would have one day, I would have somebody come in, she would take them through some meditation, and we do some chakra sound healing, just other ways of teaching them to be grounded and present. Because not everybody who goes to massage school is going to be, they have different approaches to healing, and some are definitely more scientific, but all massage therapists have a practice of grounding. I've never seen a massage therapist run into an office being in a tizzy yet. I mean, maybe she's out there.
Right.
And I think that's just the nature of the work. Being, even just sitting in meditation or trying to ground yourself, you have to be in the moment. You have to bring yourself right back to where you are, because that's the only moment that's happening right then, is where I am right now. And that's a hard thing to always keep coming back to. And that's part of that practice of being mindful. You were saying, you saw that on was the New York Times, the mindfulness inside.
No, it was Time magazine.
Magazine. Mindfulness is a pretty big catchword right now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're always telling your children, be mindful, be mindful. It's kind of like, just watch the hell what you're doing.
Right.
I mean, basically that's how it's being tossed around, but it's just being mindful. It's polite. So it's being taken a little bit out of context.
Yes.
But it's the same thing. Be mindful. Your mind is you're in your mind. Again, you said you were a scientist and you like that connection. Well, absolutely. The brain, I mean, we learn and we use our brain to learn. The brain is this great and amazing computer that we can program, and that we can teach it, and we can absorb material. So a lot of people say, oh, I can't meditate. Well, because you're telling yourself you can't.
That's right.
And they say, well, I just can't sit there for an hour and do nothing. Believe it or not, when you sit there for an hour and do nothing, you're doing a lot, because your mind never shuts off.
No.
I can sit for an hour and it's just going to be constantly going. But that mindfulness is being aware of that thought that's going by at that moment, going, oh, thought. All right, let's get right back here. Where's it going? Oh, bye-bye. And then coming back. And that's, that can be my whole meditation. It's just watching the thought. That's what it is. It's like a cloud going by. But see, that's not getting attached to the thought, detaching from it. Acknowledge it, let it go.
Yeah, right.
So you just keep coming back. And then sometimes you get a little bit more than a nanosecond of quiet. Sometimes you get almost a whole second of quiet. And that's that. It's a practice. Massage is a practice. Meditation is a practice. Massage is a practice.
But they both are. And I think that's where people get confused. I think most people, when they hear meditation, because I hear this all the time, I teach a mindfulness workshop, and I hear people say, like, I'll ask, how many people in here have meditated before? And they'll be like, maybe, I don't know, 10% of the people will raise their hand, and then I'll say, and how'd you do with it? And they're like, oh yeah, I couldn't do it. I think I did it for like 10 minutes and that's it. And they don't realize first of all, there's so many different types of meditation. And I think most people go for the hardest one, where it's just clear your mind, which is impossible to do for people that have never meditated before. But mindfulness practice is meditation. Meditation and yoga always get, like, when you start talking about mindfulness practice, instantly people go to meditation and yoga, which is a huge part of it. But that's not the only thing. Mindfulness practice is sitting down, and when you chew your food, tasting every bit of it. Mindfulness is not talking when somebody is speaking, so you can listen to what they're saying, and taking those moments and staying calm when you feel like you want to scream and yell at something. You look inward and control, the situation, and the more that we do it, the better we are overall. Our stress levels are lower, and that we communicate better, and we just become better people because we're very present and aware of what we're feeling at any given time and how we're going to respond to our environment, right? So so here's another question for you. So you live mindfully. What does that look like for you? You started to say a little bit about it, but like on a daily basis, I would say, how have you found, or I have found over the last few years that so many people struggle with a mindful existence. Do you agree? And if so, why do you think so many struggle?
I think a lot of people have a hard time being alone with themselves.
Yeah,
If
I
you
agree.
can't sit with yourself, you're going to have a hard time being mindful. And again, that's that practice of being able to sit for a little while and be quiet. Like when I said, and the thought goes by and I let it go. I need to make that quiet time for myself. I mean, even sitting down with a cup of tea restores people, right? People are like, oh, I just can't wait to go sit down and have a cup of tea or get off my feet. Same thing, but not quite. But I think a lot of it is people are afraid to slow down and sit quietly with themselves. Because if I sit quietly with myself, I've got this cultural message that I'm not doing something. I need to be getting something done. I'm not allowed to be sitting here for a moment and feeling myself, right? I mean, that's something, a big thing that we've learned in massage school with self-care, and that's something we always taught our students. And self-care, it doesn't, I mean, obviously eat right, drink water, exercise, sleep, but it's also just taking care of your inner landscape, that being mindful. Another a way of being mindful was something I learned from my Buddhist teachers, was clean like a monk. And it was a practice that we do once. I used to go on these weekend silent retreats with them, but we would get a task from where we were staying, and we had to do it mindfully, which means if I had to clean the tea station, that everything that I picked up, I was very mindful of. So it was a practice. And I was just going to be completely in that moment, right? And I can take little parts of my day and do that. If I'm going to be digging in the garden in the dirt, I'm going to be very mindful. And I know when I just said digging in the dirt, I just heard somebody say skirtle. Sorry, I've got a problem with squirrels. But you know, I'm there, right? And that's being mindful, putting yourself in that moment. When we learn to do that, that has a lot of power in calming us down. We don't realize that, right? Wow, I've slowed down and I'm here. And actually where I am right now is the only place that I'm at. It's the only place I can be at this moment. Everything else in my head, I can't be there, but I can be here. So if I'm going to be here, I can be mindful about it. I can engage with it.
But do you think that's part of the problem? Do you think that people just don't want to be in their thoughts? Like, because the opposite of mindful practice is mindless. So if you're either mindful or you're mindless. And when we sit still, what is the most common practice that people do when they are sitting somewhere and they sit still for a certain period of time, and it's not even very long, they instantly get on their phone and they start scrolling and they start looking at stuff, and I'm convinced that we're at a point where we are almost afraid sometimes to be alone with our own thoughts. And that, or somebody, like you said, it's like societal, like somebody's going to say they're not doing anything, or what are they doing just sitting there, you know? And if you close your eyes for a moment and look like you were meditating, some people might be okay with it. Some people might think you're weird, you know? And I did that one time. I had to go to the DMV, and who the hell likes to go to the DMV? And I got my ticket and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be here for a bit. And I just sat up in the chair and I just did my breathing exercises, and it was the most enjoyable time I have ever had at the DMV. And I was so calm, and I made sure I paid attention to the numbers being called because I didn't want to be so relaxed that I missed my call. But I got up to the person, and I was so calm, and you know, and the tension gets up in places like that because people are waiting so long and they're pissed off and they're in a hurry, and so I think, I'm convinced that, I mean, and I view people a lot when I'm out in public. You probably do that too. I could totally see you doing that, Nan. And I observe people. I like to sit and really just look at people and see how many people just cannot be by themselves. They can't just sit there. They can't just eat. They're by themselves. They have to be focusing because, I mean, you fill in the blanks. I mean, those of you that are on, fill in the blanks sometimes, like tell us what, if you struggle with being by yourself, like, not turning a TV on or not having music on and just having quiet time. Does it bother you? Do you struggle with that? And before we go on, I just want to say hello to Deirdre is on. Hey, Deirdre's here. And Andrew says, my brain is too busy to have a quiet time.
Yes, we've had this conversation.
So yeah, do you think, I mean, would you agree with that? Do you think that people just are not willing to really face things too? It's not just that they get the pressure that they need to be doing something, but that...
This is going to tie into your whole junk drawer thing the other morning. Sometimes I look at the junk drawer, and there's an awful lot of stuff crammed in there, but
Yes.
we've got to use it at some point, so we don't want to get rid of it. And sometimes you open the drawer and things pop out, right? And I think that's us day to day, right? I'm doing something, all of a sudden I'm doing something, and then all of a sudden something else pops out. I'm like, oh yeah, that. And then my mind goes wandering off of that while I'm trying to do this, and the next thing you know, I've cut my finger off. Right? That's not being mindful, right? That's
No.
There's a term for that. It's called the monkey mind, right? It's just constantly cannot be contained, and it's hopping all over the place. But yeah, I think a lot of people just don't want to clean that junk drawer, right? If you don't even have to clean it, just to be able to close it.
Organize. Yes, right. Purge something. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It took me a while to get here, but now that I'm here, Laura, you were saying when we were in traffic, I used to, road rage was one of my favorite sports at one point in my life. But then I started working on myself, and then I just realized I'm going to get to wherever I'm going to get when I get there.
Yes, regardless if you yell or not.
Exactly. So if I'm burning up all this chi, having a fit in the car, people are looking at me going, what's that? And I'm burning up energy that I can be using somewhere else. And it's not even good energy. I'm just exuding negative energy. And that's not what I want to be exuding either. I'd rather just be calm or positive. That's what I want people to feel when they're around me. I don't want them to feel all jittery and, damn, if I move wrong, she's going to pop me in the head kind of thing. Yeah. And that's not where I want to be. So yeah, I've learned driving. I'll get to where I'm going. If I'm late for the party, I'm still going to be there.
Yes. I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's these, society does play a huge role. It's these expectations, what we think and what we believe and what should and shouldn't happen, don't should on me. And all of this pressure, rather than saying, basically shit happens. And, I'm not going to attach myself to it. I'm going to stay grounded. And you're not sitting in a corner, like in a pretzel position with your arms up, like oblivious to everything. I think people sometimes get the wrong idea with mindfulness is that they think that you're passive and nothing, everything's going to go right by you. And all mindfulness just means is being present. It means being aware of what your surroundings are and how you are feeling and what's going on in your head. And when you see yourself drifting, like you said, you're cutting something for dinner, and all of a sudden you start thinking about something else, and then you cut yourself because your mind wandered. It wasn't in that present moment because we're so, notorious for that. That's our brain just made that way to just sort of wander off. And I think scientists have said that our attention span is that of a goldfish these days, like that human's attention span, 3 seconds. And we can easily flip-flop back and forth. And so mindfulness teaches us to slow down a little bit, just.
Right. And it's a practice, Lori. Nobody's mindful 24/7.
Right.
But it's always something to come back to when you need, not when you need to, but when I need to calm myself down. I've learned that technique, right? Just come right back to where my feet are right now, Nanette. And that slows my heart rate, down, calms my brain down a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, I'm right here. What can I do from right here? Right? Because when I'm thinking about what can be done, I'm in none of the places where I can do those things. Come right back here. What can I do from here? And that's another, I think another gift of being mindful is if you quiet yourself down, a lot of times you'll find a way to fix things faster.
Yes,
Or
the answer.
find a solution.
Yes, absolutely. When you take that pause, even, it's interesting is even famous speakers have talked about this, like Les Brown has talked about this, that when you just quiet yourself, that's when the information flows in, and you stop talking and sometimes create that inner monologue where you like you were just saying, where you calm yourself down, and because you're like, I'm bringing you back here, I'm bringing you back to this moment in time. So how has your past created your present? Because you said you always like this. So
All right. Well, I think one of the things that we did want to talk about is in terms of my business model. What I want to do is set up at some point a nonprofit to get massage therapy brought into particularly women in recovery. Not that I don't like men in recovery, but it's just easier to work with women. And that could be another offshoot. But right now, I've had in my life, I've always been looking for something creative. So as a child, I liked to play in the woods and play with leaves and barks and dirt and be creative that way. And then when I got into school, I decided got into high school and we had art classes. I said, I really like this. I want to be an artist, right? But that didn't, I mean, I liked it and I liked playing with clay and I liked working with paint, but that didn't go anywhere for me. And then I started learning how to cook. That really resonated with me because I could create something and nurture people with it. And I said, because I was always making things with the herbs and the plants and everything outside too and giving that to people too. I'm glad I never poisoned any of the fellow children I used to play with. Watch your children when they're out in the woods. So anyway, I said, okay, that's kind of where I want to go. So I spent many years cooking professionally in restaurants, but I got tired of that. And I eventually wandered off to massage school because I still like using my hands and I still like being creative, and massage allows a lot of that. But along my way searching for who I was, and there was a very spiritual disconnect in my life. And in the restaurant world, there was a lot of drinking, obviously, right? Wine goes good with everything. Restaurant kitchens, and you'll even have heard this from Anthony Bourdain if you were a fan of his, restaurant kitchens are a hotbed of alcoholism and drug addiction.
Yes.
Right? It still is. And I hate to blow that up, but like I said, Bourdain blew that up years ago. So I kind of got a little involved in that lifestyle. So trying to figure my way out, because then I started really losing any kind of spiritual connection with the world that I thought I had, but I seem to have lost that somewhere in the woods when I was a little girl. So to make a long story short, I ended up going into a recovery program and got my life back. That was probably the biggest thing that ever made, besides going to massage school, were the two biggest things that made a difference in my life. From there, and that was a bit of a struggle because again, that was learning to be mindful and that was learning to sit with me. Because obviously, and this is why I want to bring this massage to women in recovery, because there's something that we lose in ourselves. And sometimes you hear it described in different programs, a God-shaped hole in our being, right? And we seem to have a disconnect with any kind of spiritual connection. So we're filling it with all kinds of other behaviors, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, stealing, gambling, but something that gives us some kind of relief from that pain of that God-shaped hole. That made me very mindful of, that's why I'm exhibiting these behaviors, because I just don't feel connected to anything. Also, they say addiction in or particularly alcoholism, it's a genetic thing, or it's a disease. Because a lot of people can go to a party, have a good time, right? Smoke a couple joints, go home, and then be fine for the next 3 months until they go to another party. Some people it's going to resonate a little bit differently, and whatever it was. So I've been down that rabbit hole, but I've come out of it, and I've been out of it for probably, I'm going on 17 years.
Nice.
So
Very
one
nice.
of the things about doing this is it teaches you to be of service. And again, this ties in with Buddhism, because Buddhism is all about being of service, being mindful and being of service. It's not about what I can get, but what can I give. So
Yes.
just changing that perspective in my life has made my life so much more peaceful and so much richer. And by richer, I don't mean things, but richer in here.
Yes.
Being richer in here and in here is more important than anything else, because all that other stuff can fade away, but
That's
I'm
right.
always going to be here with me. So I've got to be right with me. So as I've gotten to know women over the years, because I've gone to a lot of women's meetings, I listen to them, and I listen to, everybody's had a different bottom. Some have very low bottoms, how bad their life got before they realized that they needed to do something to change it. Some people were just like, things just weren't comfortable when I came in. Kind of like me, I didn't have a very low bottom. I just was really unhappy and needed to look at something to change it. But I'm listening to these women, and I'm listening to their pain, and I'm thinking, I just want to reach out and touch them. And not like, hugging is a wonderful thing, but what I learned becoming a massage therapist is when I put my hands on somebody, just that mindful connection, right? And when I work, I have no agenda when I put my hands on somebody, except for the agenda of what work can I do? There's that focus, but I'm not going to heal you. I'm not going to, baptize you. I'm not going to do anything. I'm here. My hands are going to find what needs to be done. That's why I want to touch them in that positive way, because it calms you down, right? And there is scientific research that supports this. I don't need to be backed up, but that does support this.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So I found a halfway house. I actually had met a young lady that was in this halfway house. And I had this bright idea. I said, can you bring me in to talk to the director? So I went in and talked to the director. I presented this thing that I wanted to come in once a week. I would give 3 hours, and I wanted to do massage on some of the residents. And it took off. I was just completely blown away at the reception I got. So it's 3 hours of volunteer work. I do it for love. And also because these women are either coming out of a rehab or coming out of jail, right? And this is where the power of touch is very important, right? At that point, our self-esteem is probably pretty flattened by the steamroller of life, right? And life is always going to be rolling over us. It's how we face life, how we deal with it, what tools we have, right? So that learning to be mindful gives me tools also. If I'm in the moment, instead of being in a panic and I see that steamroller, I'm like, I think I'm going to just step to the side here, as opposed to not being mindful and just, everything's happening and then I'm flat and it's done. It's making a difference. This whole quarantine thing slowed it down, and I call in every week to check on everybody over there, and she said, we really miss you here. We really miss you, and the girls are waiting for you to come back. It's been nice. I've worked on a lot of women who've never had massage before. They didn't know what to expect, but it was really very powerful for them. Even if it's not that I'm doing a lot of remedial work, I certainly know where their tension is, right? It's just that neutral, non-judgmental touch, calming them down, making them mindful for that hour. And that's what massage does too. It makes you very mindful. It brings the client into themselves. It makes them very body aware. So I feel very strongly about this, because I think these women need a chance to learn something different, to experience something different, right? And I want to make this go a little bit farther with this. So that's why I'm looking at some point to gather other massage therapists who have time that want to do community service. Because at this point, there is no money in it. And I wouldn't ask these women for money. They're not working, right?
Right.
Some of them can't even leave the house at this point. They haven't got privileges yet, right? So they're in there. But if I can give them an hour a week, just to let them find some peace, right? Because that's what touch does too. It's very peaceful.
Yes, very much so. Yes. I'm a big believer that, I mean, we have a lot of depression in this country. We also have a lot of substance abuse, and I do not think they're separate. I do believe that they go together. And, you know, they are, I mean, it's shown in research that they are together, but I think that they are really together. Like, in other words, that people who abuse drugs had some sort of mental, you know, either depression that they weren't aware of, or anxiety, and mostly a combination of both. And it's medication, you know, the substance becomes the self-medication, not to deal with the emotions that they're feeling. And we're also a society that really does not touch that much. You know, I was lucky. I grew up in a household where we're Italian. It's like we touch everybody, whether, you know, and some people don't like to be touched, but that's the way we are. I mean, we're just very touchy-feely people. I am that way, even when I lecture. And I always make sure I let people know, you know. And it's funny because sometimes at the end of my workshops, I'll say right before I'm ready to get off, I'll say, I mean, this could be corporate. I'm talking like speaking in a corporate venue. And I'll say, you know, I love giving out hugs. So if you're interested, feel free, you know, to come up. And it's funny to see, I have some people that will come up, and people that you wouldn't even expect, you know, guys in suits, you know, and like, you know, women. But then there's other people who run out the door. It is the funniest thing. They will just like go, like as if I get eye contact with them, like they're screwed kind of deal, you know. Right. And years ago, I had a conversation with an upper management person in Steiner Education, which no longer, I don't even think exists, and she was a massage therapist, and she was saying, she said something that was so insightful. She said that perhaps maybe the reason there's so much sexual abuse, not just talking about with children, I'm saying even with adults, improper or just sexual promiscuity in general, because we took touch out of the school. Like nobody's allowed to touch each other. You can't touch each other. You can't. And touch is so natural for humans. And even for people who don't like to be touched, they'll have a pet. A lot of people have pets, and you see them, and they'll be petting their pet, you know, touching their pet. And so we do love touch, and the reason we like touch in some element is because it is. You said science backs you up. You're right, because you release oxytocin. It's a chemical that is released, and it's a bonding chemical. That's what it's known for, and it's one of our happy chemicals. So when a person gets that euphoric feeling after they get off the table from a massage, they're feeling this huge dose of oxytocin and endorphins, and it's like just going through their body, and they feel at peace. And so now go to the group that you're working with, and how many of these women maybe grew up in households where, you know, they didn't get that nurturing, right. That the only nurturing that they knew, it was sexual. Like it was the only bonding was a sexual bond, you know, or they, and after a while that does something to a person's mental capacity, that, you know, that they feel that they're not worthy. They get depressed. They think that they don't fit in, and something about them is not quite right. So turn to drugs, turn to alcohol to self-medicate. So you have to think about that stuff. Right. Your offering is phenomenal for women. I mean, it's phenomenal for anybody, but I know you're specifically working with women. So maybe some men can put a group together to work on the guys, you know, or vice versa. But this is phenomenal because, you know, these are women who, whatever their background is, for you come in there with no judgment. It's I don't care what your background is. I don't care what your story is. What I'm going to provide you is love and touch. Right. And that's what you do. What's the most incredible response you have seen with that?
Girls waiting for there to be an empty spot on the list. Somebody that I've worked on before a couple of times, just hoping that because they're like, I really need this today. And I like hearing that. It's not like, I really need to go get high today. I need a massage today. And that's kind of how I want to change that thinking. I want to teach them other ways of self-care, other ways of dealing with life on life terms. But you don't have to check out to do it. You just find other ways, other tools to do with it. You know, some people are gifted that way. They can deal with life. But when you've been taken down that road of alcohol or addiction, it takes you a while to come back and learn these things.
Of course. Yeah.
So usually I think the most powerful thing is when I work on somebody who's never had body work before, and they just get up and go, wow, I never knew that was like that. And just like, thank you for doing this.
Anybody emotional releases, like having
no. And I'm always prepared for that. Because I know some of the women have, they've been in jail, and I know that's not a pretty place. And I know some women that have worked as sex workers or been in abusive relationships. So again, touch is very loaded around those situations.
Yes, right.
I have to be very mindful when I work on these women, and I will check in, and I will let them know what I'm doing. You know, I'm going to put my hands on you right now.
Yes.
And you have the power. If you do not like anything that I'm doing, please tell me to stop.
Right.
But that's mindfulness practice, and that's something massage therapists learn also. You know, watch for signals. Am I doing something that's making them tighten up?
Right. Yeah, right. You're making them in control, which so many people that are especially in recovery have felt for years that they weren't. They were not in control of their lives, and they're also understanding healthy touch. The fact that you're providing something with them that you're basically saying to them they can just be themselves. They can just be who they are at that moment in time, and that you're just going to help them relax and feel better in a positive, healthy way.
Right. And exactly, like you said, I'm not judging anything that they've done, right? Where they come from at
because all. Who are we to do that? That's mindfulness. That's another huge piece of mindfulness practice. It's not being non-judgmental. It's who are we to say, oh, because they had this background and they're like, who are we? Like, like, how do we have the authority to judge anybody? Because we don't know. We've never walked in their shoes. We don't know their background. We don't know anything. And when you go, how do you feel? Like, how at peace do you feel? Because listen, anybody who's ever had a massage, but especially I know there are massage therapists listening to the broadcast, so it's a physical job. I mean, it is a very physical job. So as you're relaxing on the table as a patron, you have to understand that this person is doing really serious work, especially if they're doing deep massage, deep tissue. But I can't say, I mean, I've heard it so many times, and I've had it myself when I do, body work sessions, that even with that physical work, you walk out like you're on a cloud. And
absolutely.
More so, you think, like with every place you've ever worked at and anybody you've ever worked on as far as clients go in your own business, would you say this one for you is a much more spiritual?
Absolutely, hands down. Every time I do massage, I feel really good when I'm done, because I've given something good to somebody, right? And they pay me, and that always makes me feel good too.
Right.
But I usually after a day at the spa or something where I've had a few back-to-back clients, I don't really walk out elated. I'm just like, okay, I did my work today.
And you're tired, right?
When I leave this house on my day there, sometimes in the morning, like, oh my God, why am I doing this? I got to go set up. I'm going to like blow half my day. I'm not getting paid. I get there. I see the list. I see the girls coming in, right? I do my work. And when I leave there, I do feel really good. I kind of float out of there. It's just like, wow, that was just an awesome exchange of energy. And that's what it is, right? I gave love and I got love back. without really even asking for it. It just happened. So yeah, no, I do walk out of there completely different than when I went in the morning. I'm like, wow, this is the right thing to do.
That's great. That's fabulous. I want to see if anybody had any comments. Let's see. We have a lot of, so Jill Palumbo is on. Hey, Jill. Let's see.
Hi, Jill.
Okay. So Jill's there, and the answers come in. That's what Dee said, Diana. Jill is saying yes. She's excited. And Jill's also, you go, Nan, and XOXO. And let's see who else. Ephraim is on. Hi, Ephraim. And then Tula's on. Tula's Nanette,
down.
Touch is magic. That's what she said. And Jill's saying that it's a positive exchange of energy, very fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And Jill said, hello, lovelies. So yeah, it is. It's a, I think what you're doing is absolutely fantastic. There are, you know, it's not saying that there's been research done, and there are massage therapists that work in places, rehab facilities that, so we know that there is a benefit. So they've known that there is a benefit. But sometimes these facilities are open for people that, you know, can afford facilities like that. It's like, what about the population that needs it? Like the population that could never would have thought to ever get themselves a massage because of, you know, it's considered, quote, still a luxury. Where those of us that are in it know that it is much more than that. It is a necessity, truly, and it is the therapeutic value is, you know, like tenfold at least, you know.
Absolutely. Even just to bring Andrew into this, I work a lot with him, and his work has nothing to do with being a luxury. He does an amazing amount of helping people recover from injury, repairing things, making things right. So that's a very valuable service. And again, you've got to stop looking at massage as a luxury, right? You go to the doctor to get fixed. You go to the chiropractor to get your spine aligned. You can also get your soft tissue manipulated or massaged to relax your mind. Touch is very powerful. Our hands are very powerful.
Yes. Definitely.
This is why I chose a halfway house, and I am looking to set up these programs in some other houses, because this particular house, the director has given me some connections, mostly in New York. Unfortunately, all my massage therapist friends are here in Connecticut, so they don't have a license to work in New York, which stinks, because I can say, oh, we'd love to help you, and you can't in New York. You just can't do it. But yeah, these are the places where there's no money. These girls don't have money. They're not even working yet, or they're just starting to get back out in the world. So I'm going to bring it to them to teach them that there are other ways of dealing with stress. There's other ways of dealing with pain, emotional pain or physical pain, right?
That's great.
Massage addresses both.
Yes, absolutely. So if someone were to, if someone out there is a licensed massage therapist, or anybody that just wants to help you build this nonprofit organization, but in the meantime, if you need people to come and, you know, be the therapist to help you, how could somebody get in touch with you? How could they get in contact with you?
They can reach me at my email, White Jade Wellness @gmail.com. I am looking to find some houses here in Connecticut also, where some women could, you know, it's just 1 day a week. For me, I can do 1 day a week. If I had another therapist, maybe we could do 2 days a week. The house I'm in now, the maximum is 20 women residents at a time. And I've never really, no, actually they've been full. And not everybody wants massage, and a lot of women are, you know, they're afraid of touch, but they'll hear the other girls talking in the house, and the next thing you know, the director will say, so-and-so signed up today. Or the director makes them go. She's like, I'm sending so-and-so to you today because she's having a really hard time. Mm-hmm. And I really love being of service, and that's what that is.
That's fantastic.
And that's part of teaching. It's teaching other people just to be mindful and self-aware.
Jill says, I was volunteering pre-COVID at hospice. Such a great way to give to others. Amazing, Nan. Amazing idea, Nan. Makes such a positive impact. And Jill asked, chair massage. Is it you doing full body table, right?
Yeah, full body table. I actually, before I started this, I went around um, begging for donations of tables. I got 2 tables.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, Nan, thank you so much for coming on tonight, and I really appreciate it. And both Nan and I are we look like we're both ready to fall asleep in some way. We're very mellow, and the more I spoke to you, Nan, the more mellow I got. So
I do that to people.
I promise you, Nan is not a boring person whatsoever. She's usually very lively, but we decided to have this energetic level for tonight's conversation, since it's mindful conversation. So, Nan, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And again, if you think that you want to be involved with this great project, and even if you are on the other side where you're a business person and you want to help support Nan's project and help her go for the nonprofit status, and put everything together, just contact her again, White Jade Wellness.
At gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Thank you again, everybody. Nan, I love you, and I will talk to you soon. And thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week with another wonderful guest, and have a great weekend. Take care, everybody.
Bye. Thank you, Lori. Love you too.
Bye, Nan.